ओके
मारिया कुछ कहना चाह रही हैं?
जी जी ओके
नो सर, मैं नहीं कहना चाह रही। अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
okay so last time we talked about global stratification and we discussed uh, different forms of slavery, including caste, estate, bonded labor, different social systems. We also compared Marx and Weber's view on what determines social classes. We talked about Marx point of view, which says that basically, stratification is because of access to means of production, whereas the Weber has a different point of view, and Weber says it is multiple factors, three factors. It could be properties, prestige, um, and properties, prestige, and power, or combination of these, right? So we also talked about different systems, stratification system, including a state, which is prevalent in Europe, um, which includes nobility, clergy, and commoners. We also discussed that the status of women in a state is determined by the status of husband. Whereas in Indian caste system, there's no social mobility. You cannot move from one class to another. Major classes are the major classes. Each class has specific roles to play, right? And then we've got we also discussed class system prevalent in the most, in most of the countries in the modern world. So it has more mobility. You can move from one class if you work hard, you earn money, you can move from one class to another one, right? Okay. We also talked about global super class, which includes 1,000 richest people who own more than 2.5 billion, who own more wealth than 2.5 billion poorest people in the world. So only 1,000 people, they are the one who are having the major share of resources in the world. So here's a picture that tells us that 10%, wealthiest 10% people own 85% of the wealth in the world, right? So now we are going to talk about why is social stratification universal? So there are two views. We see stratification is there everywhere. In India, in America, in South Africa, the forms of stratification may be different. However, stratification is there, right? So what we see here, we try to define why is social stratification universal. So there are two views, two major views. One is the functionalist view, which is about motivating qualified people, and the other one is conflict perspective, which says stratification is because of a class conflict. We discuss in a minute in more detail, right? So the first one is functionalist view, which is motivating qualified people, and that's very interesting. It says that Davis and Moore's explanation is that it says that in order to maintain a spirit of progress in the society, in order to encourage those who are highly qualified to work harder, you need to maintain social stratification. if there is no stratification, there's no motivation to move move up. There's no motivation to work hard. I mean, you have a motivation that you want to be assistant commissioner, or you want to be a higher, a big business person, or you want to go higher in the government job, right? So you would work hard. If everybody is treated alike, if there's no stratification, if everyone enjoys a similar benefit, similar income, then those who are highly qualified, they would not have any motivation to work hard, right? So poor people, those not poor, those who are not performing well, um, and those who are performing well, probably the difference, what makes the difference is a motivation to achieve a different status, which is, because of the stratification. So if the society is not stratified, everybody is equal, then it would be inefficient. That is functionalist view. So it's even the stratification for functionalists is a function of the society that reinforces order in the society, that helps society to move forward. Um, Another example is like if you really have a person who is driven by, I mean, a person who is not not so qualified, or who does not belong to a very wealthy family. What happens that he works hard. So he gets motivation to achieve a status which he does not own right now, right? And in order to achieve that status, uh, he contributes more to the society because he works hard, right? So that's why it is helpful for the society to have stratification. Um, and other, you might have noticed, uh, it also stratification creates jobs. I mean, in the flank of a wealthy society, any wealthy society, there would be some shanty towns, there would be some poor localities, people who can come and work in those posh societies, right? So that's what Davis and Morse tell, that it is important to have stratification in the society to keep uh, highly qualified people motivated, right? Uh, it's in a way linking reward with effort, right? However, the problem is that it's not that simple. The problem is that when we say, it serves as a motivator, there are many people who are highly motivated to perform high in the life, but the problem is they do not have access to resources, and that is why they never reach to a stage where they can achieve their goals, right? Um, so that's why Tuman's critique was, he made a critique on number of bases. The first one is, how do we know that the position that offer higher rewards are more important? Davis and more said that people who are better people, who are highly qualified, they get better position, and that is why, since they occupy better positions, they deserve better rewards, right? So Tuman says, how do we know which position is better and which is not better? I mean, how can we say a doctor is a better position than the cleaner or the sweeper in the hospital. If he does not sweep or does not disinfect the surfaces, there would be more deaths and more casualties. Even doctors cannot do anything. If the garbage is not collected for 3 or 4 days, there would be massive outbreak of like diseases in a locality. So how do we determine that one job is superior to another? That is very arbitrary. That is very abstract. We categorized different jobs as superior than others. So this that's why this classification is self-made and probably does not make sense, right? Similarly, second objection that humans raise is if stratification worked as Davis and Moore described, then society would be a meritocracy. Then everything would be on merit. Position would be awarded on the basis of merit. But we see around us, it is not so. Positions are not given on the basis of merit. I mean, you get position, you get promotions, you get reward because you know somebody powerful, you know somebody who is more influential in the organization, you have better relationship with your boss, right? So because of all these things, we do not see pure meritocracy, right? The third objection of Tuman on functionalist view was that if social stratification is so functional, it ought to benefit everyone. Yet social stratification is dysfunctional for many. I mean, if it is so that really, I mean, it motivates people to work hard, then everybody should be working hard because everybody should work hard, should be intrinsically motivated to work hard and reach a better position. But we know that it is not like that, right? So that's why there are three major objections raised by Tumen. That one, it is we don't know which job is better. So assumption that better people get better jobs, that is not right. The second one is stratification worked. If stratification,
देखना पड़ेगा
sorry.
में देख
So if stratification worked so well, then there would be more harmony in the society, right? Then we've got the conflict perspective. Conflict perspective says, conflict theory says that everything, the social stratification because of the class conflict and not because of any functional reason, right? So the first argument, the first line of argument presented by Mosca, Mosca says society can exist unless it is, no society can exist unless it is organized, right? This requires leadership to coordinate people's action. Leadership requires inequalities. Inequalities of power. If everybody, we often see, वो हम कहते हैं कि जनाब वो देखें वो गुलाम का गुलाम है, ये नवाज शरीफ का गुलाम है, ये इमरान खान का गुलाम है, ठीक है? अब और लोग बखुशी गुलामी कबूल करते हैं. वो कहता है, मॉस्का कहता है कि no society can exist unless it is organized, and organization requires difference of positions, different of power position. It requires inequalities. People would only follow you if they consider you are superior, right? So by definition, some people take leadership role and other people take followers role, right? So because human nature is self-centered, people in power will use their power to seize more power and more reward. And that's very basis of corruption. I mean, anybody, well, you might have heard power corrupts. So anybody who's in the power position is it's inclined to corruption, because power corrupts. You want to maintain power, right? It's because you want to maintain the inequality. So that is Mosca's argument. He says it's not because of the functional reason that stratification is necessary because we want to motivate qualified people. It's basically few powerful people who want to maintain their power, right? And they want to impose inequality. They want to maintain inequalities so that the people who are on the lower stratum, they continue to follow them and they continue to get more power and more reward, right? The second argument presented by the second major theorist here is the Marx. Marx, we've already talked about Marx. And for Marx, all of the human history is an account of small group of people in power using society's resources to benefit themselves. So Marx says there are few people who are using society's resources to benefit themselves, and they want to maintain it, and that is why they would continue to oppress people who are below them, right? And those who are oppressed, they try to overcome this domination, but they cannot succeed because all the resources are in the hands of few powerful, right? So for Marx, elite controls the resources and they oppress masses, and the masses, they remain oppressed because they do not have power in hand, right? So if we look at the current application of conflict theory, we would know that if we analyze the global stratification and global capitalism, conflict sociologists look at the power relationship among nations, how national elites control workers, how power shifts as capital shuffled among nations. So, we've seen here in the world in the last couple of years, when the power moves, the powerful country, the more, the rich and the wealthy country tries to control others. We've seen, like 40 years back, when Britain used to be a big power, right? They colonized half of the world, right? And they tried to maintain their control 50, 60 years until 50, 60 years back all over the world. And even when they left their colonies, like India and, current India and Pakistan, Bangladesh, some of the African colonies, they made an institution called Commonwealth of Nations. You must have heard about this, Commonwealth of Nations. What is Commonwealth of Nations? Commonwealth of Nations is an organization made by Britain consisting of those countries who had been colony of Britain, right? And who are no more colony. And until 1970, I think like 1968 or 1970, there was no visa required for any Commonwealth citizen to go to the UK. Even today, although they require visa, like a Pakistani person, if I'm on a visa in UK, I have right to vote in general election because I'm a Commonwealth citizen. I belong to a country which is part of the Commonwealth. So as a Pakistani, holding Pakistani passport, if I'm living there as a student or on a work permit, I can vote in the general election or any election. That is the point I'm going to make is, even though the formal, they have, the formal system of colonies has ceased, still the Britain or, those colonial masters, they try to maintain their influence on the colonies. And for that, they have made similar organization where they make some funding, some, cultural exchange, and they keep nations under control. Similar is the case with United States of America, and now currently China is doing. China is giving loans to America, give loans to country. Why? Because they want to maintain their power and reap economic benefit, right? So uh, that's why, similarly, there are powerful elite within a country, right? If we look at the current application within the country, there are powerful elites, powerful groups who try to maintain power, right? And keep their workers, keep their servants, employees oppressed, right? And you would see around you, uh, there are companies, large organizations. Uh, I mean, the few people at the top, owners, family, directors, they continue to get rich and rich and rich. And those who are working as a factory worker or entry-level managers, they are the one who are oppressed, and they cannot really they don't reap the real benefit of the economic development, right? So we've talked about two major perspectives here. The functionalist, which says that it's the function of the society, right? However, Tuman offered a very good critique, saying that if it is a function, if it is functionally better for the society to have stratification, that then why there is so much discrimination in the society, why it is not promoting the societal interest, there's no merit in the society. And then conflict perspectives. This guy Tuman, he did not favor the conflict, he only offered critique on functionalist view, right? And on the other hand, these people, Moscas, Marx, they offered a case of conflict theory, which says that it is because of the Mosca focused on the leadership area, where he says that leadership, within a country, you need organization, and within a society, within an organization, you need organization, and organization needs leadership as well as those who are followership, right? And in order to maintain the followership, what people do, they continue to oppress the masses, right? The Marx argument was that they are well documented, that human history is about conflict. Now, if you look at the summary of this one, uh, functionalist versus conflict view of distribution of resources. Functionalist view is those who perform the more important function, more capable, more industrious, more hardworking. Uh, they are the one who receive most of resources, right? Okay, so those who receive less reward, they are the one who performs less important functions, who are less capable and less industrious. On the other hand, conflict view says, those who occupy more powerful position, they are the one who gets more reward, right? And those who occupy less powerful position, it's not whether they are competent or not. If they occupy less powerful position, they are the one who are going to receive less reward, right? So there's one more thing, Lenski's synthesis. So Lenz, obviously, if you look at both of these these perspectives, I mean, there seems some important points in both views. This is true that if there is no stratification, nobody would have incentive to work hard. Nobody would have incentive to be more capable, to be more industrious, right? um, However, at the same time, we also see there is uh, lack of merit in the functional view, and the conflict perspective says uh, it is because of the conflict of those who want to remain rich, those who want to maintain their power, they are the ones who are controlling everything. So both themes correct from different point of view. So what Lenski did, he tried to synthesize, right? Compared both in a way that they make sense. Where is the first one applicable and where is the second one applicable? So Lenski said surplus is the key. What is surplus? He said that in societies, in the old societies, hunting and gathering societies, where people used to hunt, uh, bring their food, eat it, and then, next day they would uh, they would do hunting again, right? Um, so he says that in the hunting and gathering societies, functionalist perspective makes sense. Important people do important job, and that is why they deserve more. However, when the accumulation started, where resources are being accumulated, accumulation of resources create power. And once the power is created, people would continue to uh, maintain power, and that is why uh, in those cases, in the modern societies, uh, sometimes a functionalist perspective does not make sense. I mean, it's more defined by the conflict perspective, right? And so, so societies give greater share of resources to those who take on important tasks. Uh, for example, in the old societies, those who used to live, who used to risk their lives in the battles, right? They would get more money, right? However, as I said before, it is different with the modern societies, where we accumulate surpluses. We accumulate surpluses, um, and and that's why accumulation of surpluses create power, right? So groups basically do not fight over the resources that they need immediately. Rather, they fight over the surpluses, and they want to accumulate more. So, if you look at the battle between different business tycoons, one company trying to get more market share compared with the other one, we can easily see that it's not about they want, how much the salary they want to pay to their employees, rather how much amount they want to use, they want to have as accumulated resources, and they want to reinvest and then expand their business further, right? So it's more, Lenski said, it's about the surpluses. Surplus is the key that help us to discuss or explain the global stratification, right? Um, so now we've got the next thing we are going to discuss is soft, how do elite maintain stratification? So we've already talked about uh, elite does maintain stratification, um, but we'll see how do they do that, right? Um, so we'll have a little break, and then we'll start again, maybe in, let's say, 15 minutes, right? And we'll continue with the topic, right? अभी वैसे खत्म होने वाला है ना, ये 3 मिनट रह गए वैसे ही ना, उससे वो स्टार्ट हुआ मीटिंग, तो वैसे ही ब्रेक कर लेते हैं थोड़ा सा, ठीक है?
Can you extend the break for more than 15 years?
15 years?
Minutes. Minutes.
अच्छा,
See, I'm already sleepy, sir.
हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले, यानी 15 साल की हमने ख्वाहिश इकट्ठी जाहिर कर दी।
मुझे ऐसे लग रहा है मैं 15 सदियों से लेक्चर में हूँ, इसलिए मेरे मुंह से साल निकल गया। थोड़ा सा टाइम बढ़ा दे प्लीज।
तो आप बताएं कितना टाइम?
बढ़ा दें सर 15 साल।
तो हाफ एन आवर कर देना।
तो हाफ एन
कैन यू
आवर,
गाइस जस्ट लेट गो ऑफ इट प्लीज? उससे थोड़ा
Okay.
सा बढ़ा दे।
चलें हाफ एन आवर कर
20
लें,
मिनट बहुत थोड़े हैं।
हाफ एन आवर कर लें, ठीक है? अभी आप 4:12 हुए हैं, तो कल आप आ जाएं,
4:45 पे ज्वाइन कर लेते हैं।
5 आ जाएं।
ठीक है, थैंक यू सो मच सर।
ओके, अल्लाह
ओके सर, अल्लाह हाफिज।
अल्लाह हाफिज।